You think you know betrayal? Try finding out your wife's entire family, the sick mother, the struggling brother, the sweet nephew who called you uncle, were all paid actors. Every birthday, every hospital visit, every Christmas dinner I funded for 3 years. I sent money for her mother's cancer treatments. Turns out her mother was a bar owner from Pattaya who got 500 baht to play sick whenever I visited. The brother who needed business loans? A motorcycle taxi driver who memorized a script. Even the kid who drew me Father's Day cards, hired from a local school. I didn't just marry a woman. I married an entire theater company, and I was the only one who didn't know I was watching a show. If our stories resonate with you, don't forget to like, comment, and tell us where you're watching from. This story was shared with us by one of our viewers who spent 5 years in Bangkok. He asked us to change some details, but wanted his experience heard. I should have known something was wrong that first Sunday dinner at Kamalwan's family home. Everything was too perfect. Her mother, frail and gentle, gripped my hand with trembling fingers and said, "Thank you for taking care of my daughter." Her brother Somchai gave me the deepest, most respectful why I'd ever received, calling me Phi, older brother. Little Niran, her nephew, had drawn me a picture of our family, stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. "This is Uncle Phil," he announced proudly in broken English, pointing to the tallest figure. I felt tears in my eyes. After my divorce back in Oregon, after 25 years of a marriage that ended with lawyers and bitter silence, this felt like coming home. Kamalwan squeezed my arm and whispered, "They love you already." The mother's breathing was labored, and she kept touching her chest. "Mama not feeling good today," Kamalwan explained. "Doctors say she need more medicine, but too expensive." I reached for my wallet immediately. $800 for her medical bills felt like nothing compared to the warmth in that small Bangkok apartment. The gratitude in their eyes made me feel needed in a way I hadn't experienced in decades. Somchai bowed deeply when I handed him the cash. "My family will never forget your kindness, Phi," he said. The mother's eyes filled with tears, and she pressed a small Buddha amulet into my palm. "For protection," she whispered. I wore it every day after that, believing it connected me to this beautiful family that had accepted me so completely. The apartment was modest but clean, filled with family photos and the smell of jasmine rice. Everything felt authentic, lived in, real. When we left that evening, Niran ran after us, wrapping his small arms around my legs. "Uncle Phil come back soon?" he asked. I promised I would, and I meant it. This was what I'd been searching for, without even knowing it. But looking back now, the red flags were everywhere. I just refused to see them, because I wanted so desperately to believe. Kamalwan always had family emergencies that required money. Her mother needed surgery, medicine, hospital stays. Somchai's motorcycle taxi business faced constant setbacks. Repairs, licenses, loans from dangerous people. There was always something. When I hesitated, even briefly, Kamalwan's eyes would fill with tears. "In Thai culture, we take care of family," she'd say. "If you cannot help, I understand. But my mother will be very sad." The guilt was crushing. What kind of man abandons his wife's sick mother? During our weekly dinners, I noticed small things that should have alarmed me. The mother never seemed to remember our previous conversations. I'd ask about her medicine, and she'd look confused until Kamalwan quickly translated. Somchai's stories about his taxi business changed details each time he told them. Once I caught the mother speaking perfect English to someone on the phone, but when she saw me listening, she quickly switched to rapid Thai. "Just talking to doctor," Kamalwan explained. "She speaks little English, only when very worried." I believed her, because I wanted to. My ex-wife Susan called during our divorce settlement negotiations and said something that haunts me now. "Phil, you're too trusting for your own good. Not everyone has pure intentions." I dismissed her words as bitterness from our failed marriage. But she'd known me for 25 years. She'd seen how easily I believed people, how much I wanted to help, how my loneliness made me vulnerable. During one family dinner, the mother showed me a medical document in Thai that supposedly detailed her treatment plan. The letterhead looked official. The doctor's signature appeared real. I never thought to have it translated by someone independent. Why would I doubt the family I was growing to love? Even Niran's behavior should have raised questions. He was 7 years old, but seemed unnaturally coached in his responses to my questions. "How was school today?" I'd ask. "Very good, Uncle." "Phil, thank you for helping with my school fees," he'd recite perfectly. What 7-year-old talks like that? The money requests escalated gradually, skillfully. First it was medicine for the mother, small amounts, a few $100s here and there. Then came the surgery. "Doctors say if we wait too long, Mama might die," Kamalwan sobbed into my chest one night. "But surgery cost 60,000 baht. Where we get so much money?" $2,000 felt steep, but what choice did I have? I loved this woman, and her mother had become like my own family. I transferred the money the next morning. The gratitude was overwhelming. The mother recovered beautifully, praising my generosity to everyone who would listen. Somchai needed $1,500 to expand his motorcycle taxi business. "If I can buy second bike, I hire friend to drive," he explained. "Make double money, pay you back quickly." It seemed reasonable. I had retirement savings from my insurance career, more money than I needed for my simple life in Bangkok. Why not invest in family? When the nephew needed school fees and uniforms, another $300, I didn't even hesitate. This was what families did. This was what love looked like. Kamalwan made sure I understood how Thai culture worked. "In America, maybe different," she'd say, "but here we take care of each other. You take care of me, I take care of my family, they take care of us when we get old." It made perfect sense. The alternative was returning to Oregon, to my empty house and bitter memories. Here I had purpose. Here I was needed. When I sent updates to my sister back home, she expressed concern about the frequent money transfers. "Phil, are you sure?" "About this?" she asked during our Skype calls. "It seems like a lot of financial responsibility for someone you've only known 6 months. I defended Kamalwan fiercely. "You don't understand Thai culture," I told her. "Family is everything here. They do the same for me." Looking back, I realized I was defending my own desperate need to belong somewhere to someone. The money kept flowing because stopping it would mean admitting I might be wrong about everything. When I moved in with Kamalwan full-time, I became part of the daily deception without realizing it. Every Sunday we'd have family dinner. Every month we'd visit the mother in the hospital for her checkups. Birthday celebrations, religious holidays, impromptu gatherings, there was always something bringing us together. The staging was elaborate and convincing. Medical documents that looked official sat on the mother's kitchen table. Prescription, bottles filled with vitamins lined her windowsill. Somchai carried business cards for his taxi service and showed me receipts from motorcycle repairs. The actors had studied their roles perfectly, creating inside jokes, shared memories, and consistent personalities that made everything feel organic. The mother would tell stories about Kamalwan's childhood, complete with embarrassing details that made my wife blush. Somchai shared memories of their father, who had died when they were young. Niran had a collection of drawings that supposedly showed our growing family over time. Every detail supported the narrative. They never broke character, never slipped up in ways I could catch. During the mother's birthday party, she made a speech about how grateful she was that Kamalwan had found such a good man. "Before Phil come to our family, we have many problems," she said, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "Now we have hope. Now we have future." The entire room applauded. I felt pride swell in my chest. This was what I'd been missing my entire life. The sense that I truly mattered to people, that my presence made a difference. Back in Oregon, I'd felt invisible, like I was just going through the motions of living. Here I was Uncle Phil, the generous American who loved his Thai family unconditionally. The irony is devastating now. The family I craved, the belonging I'd searched for my whole life, was literally a performance staged for my benefit. Every warm moment, every expression of gratitude, every celebration where I felt truly loved, it was all theater, and I was both the audience and the unwitting financier. The first crack in the facade came from the most innocent source. 7-year-old Niran was eating dinner with us, chattering about his day at school when he said something that stopped my heart. "After we finish eating, my real mama come pick me up," he announced casually, reaching for more rice. The adults froze. Kamalwan quickly jumped in. He confused about his aunt. She laughed nervously. Sometimes he call her Mama, too. The mother nodded vigorously. Yes, he confused. I am only Mama. But Niran looked genuinely puzzled by their reaction. He stared at them, with the kind of innocent confusion children have when adults suddenly get upset about something they don't understand. Later that evening, I found him in the small bathroom, holding a piece of paper and quietly practicing English. Phrases. Uncle Phil, how are you today? He whispered to himself. I am fine, thank you for asking. The paper had other responses written in careful handwriting. School is very good. Thank you for helping my family. I love you, Uncle Phil. My stomach turned cold. Why would a 7-year-old need to practice casual conversation with his uncle? When I asked him about it, he looked terrified, glancing toward the living room, where the adults were talking. I'm just practicing English, he said quickly, crumpling the paper. Teachers say I need practice. But his hands were shaking, and he kept looking at the doorway like he was afraid of getting in trouble. I wanted to question him more, but Kamalwan appeared, gently taking his hand. Time for bed, little one, she said, her voice unusually tense. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself I was being paranoid. Children say strange things. Mixed families are complicated. Maybe his real mother was an aunt who helped raise him. Maybe the English practice was just schoolwork, but doubt had crept in, and once it starts, it grows. I began watching more carefully, listening more intently, and what I saw made my blood run cold. 3 weeks later, my world completely collapsed. I followed Somchai after Sunday dinner, telling Kamalwan I was going for a walk. He drove his motorcycle to a completely different neighborhood, one I'd never seen before. I watched from behind a street vendor's cart as he pulled into the driveway of a modest house. A woman came out with 3 children, real children who ran to him calling, "Papa! Papa!" He swept them up in his arms, laughing and spinning them around with genuine joy I'd never seen during our family dinners. This wasn't his side business or a friend's house. This was his real life, his actual family. I hired a private investigator the next morning, a British expat who specialized in romance fraud cases. What he uncovered destroyed me completely. The mother wasn't Kamalwan's mother at all. Her name was Pensri, and she owned a small bar in Pattaya. The investigator had photos of her laughing with friends, perfectly healthy. No sign of the frail illness she performed for me. Somchai was indeed a motorcycle taxi driver, but he had 3 children and a wife. His real financial struggles had nothing to do with business expansion. He was just trying to feed his actual family. Little Niran wasn't their nephew. His mother worked at a local school and was paid 500 baht every weekend to let her son spend time with Uncle Phil. The investigator showed me bank records that traced my money transfers. Kamalwan had distributed small amounts to each actor for their performances, but she kept the majority. Over 3 years, I'd sent more than $35,000 to fund this elaborate charade. The investigator estimated that each actor made more in one weekend with me than they typically earned in a month at their real jobs. The medical documents were forgeries. The prescription bottles contained vitamins. Even the business receipts Somchai showed me were fake, printed on a computer and artificially aged. Every single thing I'd believed about my new family was a lie, choreographed and performed by people who were just trying to make enough money to survive their real lives. The confrontation wasn't explosive like you see in movies. It was quiet and devastating, like watching a building collapse in slow motion. I presented Kamalwan with the investigator's report on a Tuesday morning, spreading the photos and documents across our kitchen table like evidence in a court case. She looked at everything calmly, without surprise or denial. "You hire someone to follow my family?" she asked, her voice more hurt than angry. "I thought you'd trust me." The audacity of her response stunned me into silence. When I found my voice, I asked simply, "Is any of it real?" She shrugged, as if the question itself was unreasonable. "You want family, I give you family. You want to feel important. I make you feel important. You happy for 3 years, yes?" Her matter-of-fact tone was more crushing than screaming would have been. She explained it like a business transaction. You lonely man with money. I know how to make lonely men feel loved. Everyone get what they need. When I asked about the money, she pulled out a notebook where she'd carefully tracked every payment. Mama get 500 baht each time, Somchai. Get 1,000. Little boy mother get 500. I organize everything, take care of all details, so I keep rest. This is fair. She seemed genuinely confused by my anger, like I was overreacting to a simple service arrangement. You pay good money, you get good performance, she said. Better than real family. Real family have problems, argue, disappoint you. My family always happy to see you, always grateful, always love you. The worst part came when I asked if she'd done this with other men. She nodded casually. 2 Farang before you. One from Australia, one from Germany. Both very happy until they go home. She spoke about it like she was discussing her job history, completely disconnected from the emotional devastation she'd caused. You get what you pay for, she said again, and I realized that in her mind, this was exactly what I had paid for. The family, the love, the belonging, all of it had been a product I'd purchased, and she'd delivered exactly what was advertised. Confronting the individual actors was somehow worse than facing Kamalwan. I found Pensri, the fake mother, working at her bar in Pattaya. She was embarrassed when she saw me, looking down at her hands while I explained that I knew the truth. "I'm very sorry," she said quietly, "but I need money for my real grandchildren. My daughter worked 2 jobs, still not enough." She wasn't cruel or manipulative, just a grandmother doing whatever she could to help her family survive. When I asked why she agreed to pretend to be sick, she said, "Kamalwan pay me good money to be sick lady for few hours. No one get hurt. You get happy family time. I get money for medicine for my real sick husband." The casual way she described it made me realize how different our perspectives were. To her, this wasn't emotional fraud. It was just work like any other service job. Somchai was mortified when I tracked him down at his motorcycle taxi stand. "Please, Fee, I'm very sorry," he said, using the Thai term for older brother that now felt like a mockery. "I know it's wrong, but my children need food, need school money. When Kamalwan offer me 1,000 baht to eat dinner and talk with nice American man, I think, why not? No one get hurt." He showed me photos of his real children. 3 beautiful kids who looked nothing like the sophisticated actors in my fake family photos. "I use your money to buy my daughter's school uniform, pay for my son's medicine when he's sick," he said. "I never spend on myself, only my family." Even little Niran's real mother apologized when I found her at the school. "I teach her, salary very small," she explained in broken English. "When lady offer 500 baht for my son to practice English with foreign uncle, seemed like good idea. Help my boy learn, help our family little bit." None of them seemed malicious or evil. They were just people struggling economically who had been offered good money to play roles in someone else's fantasy. This somehow made it worse. I realized I hadn't just been the victim of their deception. I'd been unknowingly exploiting their poverty, paying them to perform happiness while their real lives remained difficult. The financial reckoning was devastating, but the emotional cost was infinitely worse. I sat in my apartment surrounded by spreadsheets and bank statements, calculating the full damage. Beyond the direct transfers to the fake family, there were gifts, restaurant meals, trips, and living expenses for 3 years of elaborate family gatherings. My retirement savings were depleted by nearly 40%. At 58, I didn't have decades to rebuild what I'd lost, but the money was just numbers. The real damage was to every memory I treasured, every moment of warmth and belonging I'd experienced. The Mother's Day card Niran had made me was still on my refrigerator, but now it felt like a prop from a play. The family photos from our trip to Ayutthaya showed 5 people smiling at the camera, but only one of us believed we were a real family. I'd kept the Buddha amulet the fake mother gave me, wearing it every day as a symbol of her blessing. Now it felt like costume jewelry from a theater production. Every laugh, every hug, every tearful expression of gratitude had been a performance. I found myself questioning not just this relationship, but my ability to judge people at all. How could I have been so completely fooled? What other relationships in my life might have been based on false premises? The loneliness that had driven me to Thailand in the first place now felt amplified, like I'd lost something precious that had never actually existed. It was the emotional equivalent of phantom limb syndrome, mourning the loss of something that was never really there. I'd thought I was healing from my divorce, building a new life with people who truly cared about me. Instead, I'd been paying strangers to act out my fantasy of what love and family should feel like. The worst part was realizing how desperate I must have seemed to them, how obvious my need for acceptance had been. I'd been so grateful for their love that I'd never questioned whether it was real. Bangkok felt different after the truth came out. Every street corner held memories that were now contaminated by deception. I couldn't walk past the hospital where I'd visited the fake mother without feeling nauseated. The restaurant where we'd celebrated Niran's birthday became a place to avoid. I tried to continue my daily routines, but everything felt potentially false. When street vendors smiled at me, I wondered if they were just being polite for money. When my apartment building security guard asked about my day, I questioned whether his friendliness was genuine or calculated. The paranoia was consuming. My Thai neighbors seemed to know about my situation. I caught whispered conversations. That stopped when I appeared, and I saw sympathetic looks that suggested the story had spread through the expat community. Some foreigners were supportive, sharing their own experiences with romance scams and financial fraud, but others seemed to blame me for being so naive. "How could you not know?" was a question I heard repeatedly, spoken with the kind of hindsight, judgment that only comes from people who haven't lived through such manipulation. One Australian man at my local bar said, "Mate, the first rule of living in Thailand is never trust anyone who wants your money." But I hadn't been looking for someone to trust with my money. I'd been looking for someone to trust with my heart. The expat community revealed a depressing pattern of similar stories. Elaborate family frauds weren't uncommon, just unusually well executed in my case. Some men had been convinced to fund fake businesses, fake medical emergencies, even fake kidnappings. The sophistication of these operations suggested they were semi-professional, with networks of actors and detailed scripts. I considered returning to Oregon, but the shame felt overwhelming. How could I face my sister, my ex-wife, my former colleagues, and explain that I'd been living a 3-year lie? The humiliation of admitting I'd been so completely fooled kept me paralyzed in Bangkok, unable to move forward but afraid to go back. 6 months after the confrontation, I found an unexpected lifeline through a support group for expatriate fraud victims. The group met weekly in a community center in Sukhumvit, organized by a retired British counsellor who'd been scammed himself years earlier. Walking into that first meeting felt like admitting defeat, but it turned out to be the beginning of my recovery. There were 12 men in the group, ranging from their 40s to 70s, all with variations of my story. Some had been victims of simple romance scams, women who took their money and disappeared. Others had faced elaborate business frauds, fake property investments, or phony legal troubles requiring expensive fixes. But 3 of us had experienced the full family theatre production, complete with hired relatives and staged emotional scenes. Marcus, a retired engineer from Melbourne, had funded a fake family for 4 years before discovering the truth. His fake wife's son had supposedly been studying in England, and Marcus had paid for tuition, living expenses, and even visited him twice, meeting with an actor who played the role of a grateful stepson studying international business. The sophistication of these operations was staggering. The scammers had databases of Western men's psychological profiles, understanding exactly what emotional buttons to push. They knew that divorced men in their 50s and 60s were particularly vulnerable, desperate for family connection and meaning in their later years. They exploited our cultural ignorance, using our lack of Thai language skills and unfamiliarity with local customs to make their lies believable. In the group sessions, I learned to separate my genuine desire for family from the artificial way it had been exploited. The need for connection wasn't shameful. The way it had been manipulated was criminal. Slowly, I began to process the shame and self-blame that had been consuming me. Dr. Harrison, the group facilitator, helped me understand that sophisticated emotional manipulation is designed to bypass logical thinking. "These people are professional con artists," he said. "They study human psychology the way doctors study medicine." Blaming yourself for falling for expert manipulation is like blaming yourself for believing a professional magician's illusion. 2 years later, I found a different kind of peace, though it came slowly and with unexpected turns. I never fully recovered financially. My retirement savings remain significantly smaller than they should be. But I learned to live more. Modestly and surprisingly, the simpler life suits me better than the expensive lifestyle I was funding for my fake family. I volunteer 3 days a week with a legitimate charity that helps street children in Bangkok. The kids are real. Their needs are genuine, and the small contributions I can afford make an actual difference in their lives. Working with these children has given me the sense of family and purpose I originally sought, but in an authentic way that doesn't require deception or payment. The work is challenging and sometimes heartbreaking, but it's real. When 9-year-old Lek shows me his improved English homework, or when Marley tells me about getting into a good secondary school, the pride I feel is genuine because their achievements are genuine. I occasionally see members of my former fake family around Bangkok. Pensri once waved from across a crowded market, and we nodded politely at each other. There's no anger left, just a strange acknowledgement of our shared history. Somchai drives past my apartment building sometimes in his taxi, and we exchange brief nods. Even little Niran, now 10 years old, smiled shyly when I encountered him with his real mother at a shopping center. These interactions feel oddly peaceful, like we're all past the performance now. I realize that while their deception hurt me deeply, they were also just trying to survive in an economic system that offers limited opportunities. My money helped their real families in real ways, even if the family I thought I was supporting never existed. Kamalwan and I have no contact. I heard through the expat community that she moved to Phuket and may be running similar operations with other lonely foreign men. I feel sorry for her next victims, but I also understand that she probably sees herself as providing a service, helping sad, isolated men feel loved and important for a while. While I'll never fully trust my romantic judgment again, I've learned to find meaning in genuine service rather than purchased belonging. The experience taught me the difference between buying affection and earning it through consistent, honest action. My life is smaller now but more authentic, and that feels like a kind of victory over the elaborate lie I was living before. The hardest lesson was accepting the complex humanity in everyone involved. We were all just trying to meet our needs. In an unfair world. Them through deception, me through desperate loneliness, all of us through the only means we thought we had available. The real tragedy wasn't the money I lost, or even the betrayal I experienced. It was that genuine connection and belonging were possible all along, but I'd been so focused on buying what I wanted that I couldn't see the authentic opportunities right in front of me. Now, when I sit with the street children during their evening English lessons, or when I help serve dinner at the shelter, I experience the same feelings of purpose and family that I thought I was buying from Kamalwan's theater company. The difference is that these feelings come from giving rather than paying, from earning trust rather than purchasing it, and from accepting people as they really are rather than paying them to be what I wanted them to be. It took me 58 years and $35,000 to learn that love can't be bought, but it can be earned through patience, authenticity, and genuine care for others. That's not the lesson I wanted to learn, but it's the one I needed. And despite everything that happened, despite the betrayal and the financial loss and the humiliation, I'm grateful to finally understand the difference between real connection and expensive performance, even if the education cost more than I could afford.